we are going to go on to something that's probably a little bit more lighthearted, which is that over the weekend, I think it was December 4th, there was this Patriot Front Unified March throughout Washington, D.C., which seems to have come out of nowhere, as far as everyone is aware. As far as I'm aware, there was no word of this on social media.
No.
And as far as most other conservative commentators are aware, they'd never heard of this going down, and they'd never heard of this organisation. But we've got this clip.
Well, before we get to the clip, sorry to interrupt, right? I just want to point out how unusual that is, right? Because I'm very much well embedded in like the MAGA social media ecosphere on Gab, on Getter, on Facebook, on any platforms. I follow as much on all sides as I can because I want to be, well informed about the political environment. And I had never heard of this organization. I don't know a single person who's involved with it. There is not one significant commentator that I'm aware of who had ever heard of anything of it, like any of this organization. And then suddenly it pops up fully formed with whoever all of these people are, with uniforms of some sort, and all of these flags and things like that. It's like,
and they seem, other than one or two direct members, they all seem to be taking pains to hide their identity.
Yeah, which is not something that the Patriots actually did.
No, it's definitely not. Most of these other groups, whether you want to call them white supremacist groups or not, have not really made much effort to hide their identities.
No, well, like the actual sort of Charlottesville white supremacists or the MAGA supporters at January the 6th, like none of them took any pains to hide their identities.
Yes.
None of the Proud Boys or anything like that. And so who are these guys? Where have they come from? And who's organized this?
Yeah, so if you want to just play this clip so we can see them and hear what they're saying.
All right, as you can see, they've brought the helicopter out. There's tons of police. Thomas, why are we marching in D.C.?
Our demonstrations are an exhibition of our unified capability to organize, to show our strength, not as brawlers or public nuisances, but as men capable of illustrating a message and seeking an America that more closely resembles the interests of its true people.
Yeah, and for anybody who wasn't watching that, it was just two guys, the two unmasked guys, standing at the front of this with a small group, I'd say probably in the tens, maybe reaching 100 people.
I heard that there were 500 people there. But...
Doesn't look like 500.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it looks like maybe 50 people behind them, all marching in lockstep with white sock bandana style things over their faces, with all caps on, all wearing sunglasses, looking an awful lot like those definitely not feds from September.
Yeah.
And they're all in matching chinos, and they've all got knee pads on for some reason. And you can hear what they're talking about there. They say, we want a unified America for all this sort of stuff. It sounds all very, what I would describe as rote talking points.
Yeah.
Like if you were someone trying to LARP or cosplay as a Charlottesville-style right-winger, these are the talking points that you would probably go for the most obvious and immediate impact, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's weird because the rhetoric doesn't match any of the rhetoric that you see online. And that's unusual, I think.
And the guy that you can see with the hat on, who is the one who is explaining what they're going for, is a man called Thomas Rousseau, who I believe is the man who formed this organization.
Right, okay.
Seems to be a very young man. If we skip over to the next link, we can see here Jack Murphy on Twitter put up a different view of the action. So it's just, once again, a large number of these people. This one looks more like it could reach that 500 number. Still not that many that I can see, but they're all walking along carrying American flags. One of them's drumming. They all seem to have shields as well for some reason. They've got a uniform and they've got chinos, which...
They definitely have a uniform.
This is much more organized than I would expect some kind of grassroots movement to appear.
That's exactly the way, that's the correct frame. No, the Patriots, like, who the hell are these guys?
Yeah.
How have these guys flown under the radar of the people who are interested in patriotic organization in the United States? And they've just popped up fully formed with uniforms, banners, and an obvious, clear organization. And literally no one knows who they are.
Yes, but we'll get onto it later, but they would certainly have you believe that they've been active for a long time. So if we move along, people obviously started to click this immediately. We've got same feds, different costume from Jim Hansen. On the left, you can see the image of them all marching in lockstep. And then on the right, was that the January 6th rally that was going on in September to free January 6th, and you can see all of those guys who definitely don't have Glocks in their pocket. Either that or they're just very happy to see you. And they're all wearing very similar uniforms with the shorts and the sunglasses,
and the wristwatches.
Yeah, wristwatches, all very young, all in very good shape. And that is another point to make with these Patriot Front people as well, that they all, as far as you can tell from, what you can see of their faces and their body shape, they all seem to be very uniform, not just in their outfits, but also in the level of fitness.
Yeah, now that's a really interesting point, because if it was a grassroots organization, you'd expect a wide diversity, should we say?
I'd expect a few fatties in a MAGA rally, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but anything like Antifa, you can see how a lot of Antifa is actually quite grassroots among middle-class college students, because a lot of them are weird and fat, and it's just one of those things. When you get a bunch of very fit people all in the same uniform, it seems like deliberate organization.
Absolutely, it does. And if we move along, this Twitter account, Jarvis, if you just scroll up to the top of this, because it starts halfway through, has done some great work in examining where a lot of the media attention seems to have come from with Patriot Front. So I won't go through the whole thing because there's quite a lot of information. I'll just take out some of the main points here. So the initial account that was talking about this Washington rally is this one, which is
that's a fake picture, isn't it?
Yes, it's attributed to the name of a Cheryl Lewayan, who does not exist. The image is AI generated, and she only signed up for Twitter like the day before the news came out, and only had one other post on her Twitter account, which was about raising money for her sick dog. Very, very strange account for this all to have originated from. So if we scroll down, she posted a tweet about the Washington rally, and it immediately tagged a number of journalists and news publications such as CNN, a bunch of, you can see there, a bunch of journalists.
Local news affiliates.
And Fox, by the looks of it.
BG on the Scene, New York Post, Washington Post.
And the thing was as well that all of these news publications, or at least the ones that you would expect to really want to jump onto any news about white supremacy in America,
these are the people to go for.
Began immediately retweeting it and talking about it, which is very strange, because I imagine these sorts of accounts don't often look at their random Twitter mentions from day-old accounts, perhaps.
Well, I mean, you don't know it's a day-old account when it appears in your mentions, do you?
I suppose so. But yeah, and it immediately got retweeted, including one man called Christopher Goldsmith, who was a so-called disinformation expert and fascist hunter, tweeting about it. He tweeted, he says that he has known about Patriot Front for a long time, and he was even able to say about how they were getting away, which is through U-Hauls and all piling into trucks.
Right.
But if you actually check his account, the first time that he posted about them was on December 4th.
Right, so like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, the day that this happened.
Okay.
But then he immediately claims to be an expert on them, and like I say, he manages to get the information correct in how they escape from the scene of their marches, which all seems very convenient. And then there's a few other things that this thread points out, such as the fact that the media that were on the scene didn't seem to want to, or even try to get an interview with any of these people, which is very strange, because you would expect them to be like, why are you here? What's going on? And none of them seemed to try to follow the U-Hauls, which were very obviously escaping the scene, either to see what's going on with that. And Goldsmith himself is now claiming that he was fooled by the AI-generated Cheryl account into spreading fear, because amusingly, a few days after everybody started to point out, hold up, this account's AI-generated and only has 2 posts, what's going on? They suddenly pulled the mask and went, aha, we've changed our name to Reclaim America. We were a front account for Patriot Front, trying to get free publicity by spreading fear. All seems a little bit convenient, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
highly sus.
The account has now been suspended, but before they did so, they were trying to confirm to everyone, don't worry, no, we are a real organization, I swear. If you go on our Telegram, we've got 4 years worth of activity on there. See, so we're definitely real, guys. And I actually do have their Telegram up that we'll look at in a few minutes. But the Chris Goldsmith as well, it points out some information regarding him. It was a very interesting character in and of himself, this guy who was very quick to start reporting
claiming that he's an expert on something that he just got fooled by.
Yes.
So he's a liar.
By the sounds of it, yes.
Right.
And it's not like he doesn't have a history of this, because he was given, in 2008, by the sounds of it, a less than honourable discharge from the military for attempting to kill himself. And in the same year, 2008, he claimed to have sabotaged the weapons of the Iraqi allies while he was out in Iraq for some reason. And then in the video, he admits to this. He blamed it on Republicans, making him a racist. And then a few years later, he comes out and being like, well, actually, I was an anti-war activist at the time, because I'm sure you get plenty of those in the military.
So he's a spook, is what we're saying.
Basically, yeah. He says he imagined it, and it seems to have been investigated by, corroborated by an investigation done by the military. So either way, this is not a stable man, but he is now a Democrat activist.
What a shock.
I know, what a shock. And he has he works as the associate director for Vietnam Veterans of America. He's contributed to CNN and other news networks, and has participated in a town hall with AOC and all those sorts of people. So
really?
He really does fit the bill of someone who would be absolutely chomping at the bit to get the foot in on news like this.
Right.
But yeah, if we move along, you can see here we've got footage of all of these Patriot Front members all packing into the back of a U-Haul, all of them with their shields and uniforms. Once again, a suspicious level of organization has gone into this march. And if we move along, there's another one, because it turned out it wasn't just one U-Haul. If you just want to play this video, Michael, yeah, you can see here a U-Haul pulls up. This is a different one at a different location. Except there's something strange about this one that I've noticed, is that there seems to be police at the side of the road, sort of just waiting and helping them.
Managing the departure.
Yes, not seeming to arrest any of these people who I'm sure that they would love to get their hands on. Not, hassling them in any way. They just orderly get into their truck.
I mean, where are they going?
Well, I mean, the media certainly weren't interested by the sounds of it.
Let's not bother investigating that, guys.
Yes.
That's really suspicious.
Really suspicious. And then if we move along, you can see that I've got their Telegram up here. And it's very strange, because for an organization that no one's ever heard of before, they've got 14,000 subscribers on Telegram. And if you just start scrolling up through here, Michael, you don't need to worry about stopping. That you can see there's a very particular type of content that they've posted on their Telegram, which seems to be just photos of them having lovely days out and putting banners up everywhere, doing some push-ups with the lads. There's only a few posts on here that ever actually relate to any direct action that isn't just spraying some spray paint or putting up some kind of banner saying, pretty stock conservative phrases like better dead than red.
I was going to say, what's really interesting is the lack of ideological propaganda, right? It feels very sanitized. Like there's no meat, right? If we can just stop on one, right? So, I mean, like what are we being told there? Because normally these slogans have some kind of biting ideological message in there.
Yes,
right?
they're designed to shock, to keep your attention.
Exactly. And you get this with Extinction Rebellion or with any of these others where like they've got a genuine drive to go somewhere. But if you can go just carry on going up a bit, just like there we go, better dead than red. Oh wow, that's so edgy.
I've never heard that one
Yeah,
before.
exactly. That's so new. Reclaim America. What do you mean? Like who are you talking about? There's no like body to what's being said. It's just a spray paint overlay.
Yeah, I don't feel the ideological passion that would typically be underpinning an organization like this.
Reclaim America from who? What is the problem? Why are we doing any of this? None of that is present.
Yeah.
Like this feels like something that was confected for a video game or a movie or something.
Well, that's the thing. The other thing I've noticed about the images is that a lot of them seem, I feel like you could very easily spend a weekend going around a city, taking hundreds of these photos, and all of a sudden you've got a few years worth of content stockpiled to just be able to post when and if you need it to make yourselves look like an active organization until you want to push something forwards. Because like they all seem to be variations. The only other photos there are photos of them all going hiking because, you know, a day out with the boys. And there is maybe one or two posts about them actually doing marches, one from July earlier this year, I believe, and then the one from December, which was leading up to the Washington one. And if we move along again, we can go to their website, which has a manifesto.
Sorry, I've got, like, again, none of that is like strong family, strong nation. Okay, yeah, like it's not incendiary screeds against Jews or black people, right? It's not like white nationalism as everyone else will have experienced it on the internet.
The only place that I can find even a remote whiff of that kind of rhetoric is in this manifesto they have on their, once again, shockingly professional-looking website.
Very clean, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it's not what you'd expect a grassroots website to look like. Most of the time, these sorts of websites I would imagine to look like something from Internet 2.0. It's also suspicious that this website comes up very easily through searches.
Right.
On Bing, you type in Patriot Front, and it's the first result that comes up, whereas organizations like the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer, they tend to get buried no matter what search engine you're on. So the only bits that I could see that are remotely sort of talking about, you know, race and stuff like that are these sorts of quotes where it says in the manifesto, however, it must be noted that you exist as an individual, but you do so in accordance with your family, community, nation, and race. You must never exist in spite of them. To see yourself solely as an individual is misguided and lacks an ethical basis. They also say people without a natural identity will find an artificial one instead of identifying with a natural classification, such as family, community, nation, or race. So the mentions of race in those are basically the only parts that I can see here.
That's the closest you get to any kind of underlying ideological meaning, content in the activism.
And once again, it seems to have been sprinkled in so that any potential normies that might be, you know, going, oh, who's this organization, scrolling to go, oh, you know, taken aback in horror.
Yeah, because there's like it's very like a gloss. It feels like an empty gloss over what is supposed to be a movement, but I'm not seeing any substance. Because I mean, look, you know, as much as I disagree with the communists or the Nazis or whoever, at least there's substance underpinning the slogans, right?
Yeah.
They at least have a theory of why they're doing what they're doing. And
if you want to try and be a reactionary right winger in the sort of mold of someone like Julius Evola or something, then he certainly was nowhere near this clean with his arguments. He was very straight up about what he was saying, whereas this all seems to sort of be like inference.
That's the point, isn't it? Like, they're never actually identifying the body that they are in favor of, right? I mean, look at this. Every group has a common interest in the form of survival, prosperity, and progress. What we see illustrated so well in our current age is also the prevalence of collective threats. In order to survive as a culture, heritage, and way of being, our nation must learn that its collective interests are fighting against its collective threats of displacement and enslavement. I know what they're trying to say, but they're never just our nation. Like, that could be, that paragraph could be transplanted to any nation on Earth, and it would be just as valid. Right.
Yes, this reads like a corporate press release written by an intern, which, if they're feds...
But it's totally universalized. It's not appealing to, like, particular American signifiers there. You know, you see it in the pictures, but, like, the statements themselves, any country on Earth could have that same statement, and they would consider it to be true in a sense, as in, you know, superficially true.
Yeah. And then there's also a few other funky things that sort of make me get suspicious. Like if you go on their homepage and scroll down just a little bit, you can see they've got a link to their BitChute, which immediately comes up with this page is restricted due to incitement to hatred. Once again, seems like something that an organization trying to invite people in wouldn't want front and center. They would probably be looking to just it looks more if you scroll down here a bit, Michael, on the front page, a little bit further, it seems like something that would be done a little bit further again. You'll find it when you see it. It'll be big. Here you go. BitChute, channel restricted, contains incitement to hatred. That seems like a lot like something intended to scare normies.
Well, is that just an image, or is
the BitChute is a link to their channel, but this is written out.
Yeah. So they're just saying that.
Yes.
Right. That's like, can we go to their channel on BitChute? Is that?
on as far as I could see from what I looked at some of the videos. Oh yeah, it's not even a link to their channel.
No, it's not a link to their channel. It's just a link to BitChute.
Yeah, it's really weird. I went on their channel and it basically just seemed to be like 2-minute discussions with their leader who's like, oh, we need to stand up to the power systems. It's like, oh, wow, how vague.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so their website's a bit weird as well. And then if you move along, we'll skip through a little bit of this stuff. That's Thomas Rousseau, the guy who who supposedly forms the organization. He's got his own page on the Southern Poverty Law Center. If you move along again, you can see.
Well, hang on, sorry. If we just go back, I know you're going over a bit of time, but like Thomas Ryan Rousseau began revealing adherence to white supremacy as a member of his high school newspaper. This aided in his rapid ascension to leadership on the racist right, first with Vanguard America and later with his founding of Patriot Front. Like it sounds like controlled opposition, right?
It really does. And if we move along, we can actually see there are still all of the articles that he contributed to on his high school newspaper. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom here, Michael, you'll find that some of the articles that he wrote, just up a little bit, you can see he's talking about stuff like diversity and other such things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, if you scroll up, he's also done some stuff like covered the Trump rally, and he does it in a very neutral way. But none of this comes across like the progressive and gradual radicalization of a young man, because these contributions go all the way up until 2017, which is when he supposedly founded this organization. So it's very, very strange. And then if we move along again, the only other major activity that I could find with Patriot Front was them doing a July 4th rally in Philadelphia back in July. Obviously
this year, was it?
Back in July this year, where they talk about how as the rally passed by City Hall and other central locations, a number of residents and bystanders began following the marchers and shouting at them. There were at least 10 to 15 counter-protesters who engaged while the police did not. Later, after the marchers had backed away and climbed into rental trucks to depart, police did detain them. Photos posted online show. I followed the link. It's just a photo of like one or two of them with their hands behind their back. Looks more like a publicity photo shoot, to me. And,
well, they probably put out their FBI badges and they were like, oh, right.
Yeah, you can see, once again, there's the repeating with the U-Hauls and rental trucks, and there's also the same uniforms and outfits. And also it's the fact that 10 to 15 counter-protesters showed up and like started shouting at them, and they were like, oh, leave us alone. You know, getting scared off by a bunch of like
the MAGA chaps would not run away at 10 to 15 counter protesters.
Yeah, it's very strange. And then if we move along again, you can see here that Antifa has immediately grasped the hold of this and started to point out, Trump loyalists in the GOP, their son's a member of Patriot Front and Revolt Through Tradition and other such neo-Nazi organizations. So what has happened is over the weekend, this organization that nobody had heard of comes out of nowhere with this big publicized rally at Washington, and as soon as it happens, all of the Antifa and Democratic establishment elites have started to use this as a rallying point and something to once again point to, look at all this white supremacy that's going on in America right now, which once again seems a little bit convenient.
Seems like bollocks to me.
Yeah, it seems like bollocks to me too. So yeah, all in all, these guys, if they are real, are the most milquetoast, ineffective, and lazy activist organization I've ever seen, and frankly, they suck, or they're very obviously feds.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
We've got loads on there, and it's all really, really good. For example, we have regular premium articles that discuss contemporary events, and we have an audio track for our silver and gold tier members. And of course, we have our regular series on there. We've got Contemplations, which is Josh and whoever he wants to have talk to him about a particular topic. On this one, he's talking to Bo, about in-group preference. Moving on. Bo and myself also do the Epoch series, which says talking about history. This one's Belisarius Part 3, because Belisarius was a 6th century Byzantine general, and he had an amazing career and a genuinely tragic end. And the myth of him is old blind Belisarius begging on the streets of Rome would have been better than what happened to him, but I won't spoil it. I'll let you I'll let you find out. And of course, we do our regular book club as well this month, so I don't know how often we do them actually. Fairly regularly. It takes a while to read a book. But this is Callum doing John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, in which I rail against utilitarianism. I used to be a huge fan of John Stuart Mill, like 5-10 years ago, And since then, I've really soured on utilitarianism. And so the framing of his arguments, I find kind of insufferable. He's not wrong in what he's arguing for, but it's the way he's doing it. But anyway, we also do a bunch of premium podcasts, things that are entertaining, we think, like the politics of Star Trek that I did with John, talking about, well, is Star Trek a socialist paradise or not? It turns out it's not, but it's, it's something different. Post-scarcity liberalism, basically. But that's a really good podcast. And we also have to put up things on the website that we can't actually put on YouTube because YouTube has editorial policies about things such as where all these heart attacks are coming from. Giant elephant in the room. It's probably climate change. Don't worry about it. We also have fascinating interviews from really interesting people, such as this one, which is an activist called Luke Avery, who's a Christian, but don't worry, he's not Bible thumping in this. What he's doing is talking about the ancient wisdom in the biblical book of Proverbs, and it's very much daddish sort of stuff, and I really enjoyed doing this one. And I think I'll have him back in, hopefully, to do another one, Ecclesiastes or something, and hopefully we'll do another one soon.
And if you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on getter.com. I love the phrase and getter doing, something like that. I don't know.
You're doing really well on there, though, aren't you? You've got like 11,000 followers.
So come follow me on Getter, come follow you on Getter.
Yeah.
And
lotuses.com on Getter.
lotuses_com on there. Let's go check that out. And also the conference itself. So this is a conference being put on by the Getter guys. This is on the December the 8th. So update on this, the Getter conference has been postponed until further notice. We will let people know as soon as we have more information. Apparently it was postponed thanks to the global freakout in response to the Omicron variant. So sorry about that. So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, you can subscribe at lotuseaters.com. Thank you and goodbye.